The doorbell rang in the dead cold of November. My daughter-in-law stood there looking at me like a stranger and said, "Margaret, he's a burden. I can't take it anymore. Deal with it." She pushed Lucas, my 6-year-old grandson, trembling, hands covering his ears, his Toy Story backpack falling to the ground. Then she walked away, never looking back, abandoning her own flesh and blood like trash. Welcome to Voices of Auntie Rose, where stories of family, forgiveness, resilience, and the courage to rise above betrayal come to life with heart and soul. We're so glad you're here, joining a community that celebrates the unbreakable human spirit. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story. And it would be amazing if you could like this video, share it, or drop a comment letting us know what time it is and which city or country you're watching from. Your shares and comments are the greatest gift, the powerful inspiration that keeps this channel growing and spreading meaningful life lessons every single day. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Margaret Sullivan. I'm 74 years old, and I never imagined I'd be raising a child again at this age. But that cold November evening in 2010 changed everything. I was in my kitchen in Brookline, Massachusetts, cleaning up after dinner when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Sarah's silver Camry idling at the curb, exhaust puffing white in the frigid air. My daughter-in-law stood on my porch, and behind her, clutching a faded Toy Story backpack, was Lucas, my 6-year-old grandson. "Margaret," Sarah said when I opened the door. Not Mom Sullivan, not even a greeting. Just my name, flat and cold. Lucas rocked back and forth on his heels, staring at the welcome mat. His small hands pressed tight against his ears even though the street was quiet. I'd seen him do this before during our rare visits, maybe 3 times a year, always brief, always uncomfortable. "Sarah, what's going on? Is everything? I need a break." Her voice cut through the November chill like ice. "Just the weekend. I'll call you Sunday." My stomach dropped. "Honey, wait. Lucas needs what about his routine? His medications? His—" "Figure it out, Margaret." She was already turning away, her designer boots clicking down my front steps. "You raised a kid before. You'll manage." "Sarah!" I reached for her arm, but she jerked away. "Don't touch me!" she snapped, loud enough that Mrs. Chen next door looked up from her garden. "God, you're so clingy. It's suffocating." The words hit me like a slap. In the 7 years since she'd married my son David before he passed, I'd tried so hard to be supportive, never intrusive. I'd babysat whenever she asked. I'd sent money thousands of dollars when Lucas needed therapy. When she said she couldn't handle it, I sent more. $10,000 last month alone for his special education program. "Sarah, please, just tell me what Lucas eats. What is bedtime?" "You're the former museum director," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "So smart, so educated. Figure it out yourself." She yanked open her car door. "I'll call Sunday." "When on Sunday? Morning or—" The car door slammed. She didn't look back, didn't wave to Lucas, didn't even glance in the rearview mirror as she peeled away from the curb, tires squealing. I stood frozen on my porch, my breath making white clouds in the cold air. Lucas remained motionless behind me, rocking, hands clamped over his ears. "Lucas?" I turned slowly, keeping my voice soft. "Sweetie, do you want to come inside where it's warm?" He didn't respond, didn't look at me, just kept rocking. I picked up his backpack. It was so light, too light for a weekend stay. When I opened it later, I'd find only 2 outfits and a worn picture album. No toothbrush, no medications, no instructions. "Come on, honey, let's get you inside." I held the door open wider. After a full minute, Lucas shuffled past me into the house, hands still covering his ears. The refrigerator hummed. He flinched violently. The heating system clicked on. He pressed his hands tighter against his head, a small whimper escaping his throat. I closed the door as quietly as possible, my hands shaking. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, appeared at my side door within minutes. She'd seen everything. "Margaret? Is that little Lucas?" "Yes," my voice cracked. "Just for the weekend." That didn't look like a weekend drop-off. Mrs. Chen's face was grave. She'd been my neighbor for 30 years, had watched me raise David in this house. That looked like abandonment. "Don't say that," I whispered, but my throat was tight. "She'll come back. She's just stressed." Mrs. Chen squeezed my shoulder. "I'm here if you need anything." After she left, I found Lucas crouched in the corner of my living room, beside my antique bookshelf. He'd wedged himself into the smallest space possible, making himself even smaller. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" I asked from across the room. I'd learned not to approach too quickly. "Nothing, just rocking." "Thirsty?" The rocking intensified. I went to the kitchen, my legs weak. I remembered that Lucas liked a specific blue plastic cup I'd bought it at Target for his visits. I filled it with water and brought it back, setting it on the floor an arm's length away from him. He stopped rocking, looked at the cup, then went back to rocking. That first night broke me. I made chicken nuggets and fries for dinner. Sarah had mentioned once that's what he ate. Lucas took one look at the plate and turned away completely, facing the wall. I tried mac and cheese, no response. I tried a peanut butter sandwich. He pushed it across the table so hard it fell on the floor. "What do you want to eat, Lucas?" My voice was desperate now. "Please, honey, tell me what you want." He hummed a low, monotone sound that seemed to come from deep in his chest. His eyes fixed on the wall. I gave him crackers. He ate 3. That was dinner for a 6-year-old boy. Bedtime was a nightmare. I tried to help him brush his teeth, and he screamed, not crying. Screaming like I was hurting him. High-pitched, anguished, terrified. I jumped back immediately, hands up. Okay, Lucas. You don't have to brush tonight. It's okay." He stopped screaming but stood there shaking, his whole small body trembling. I led him to the guest room, David's old room, which I'd kept exactly as it was. I tucked the quilt around him gently, the way I remembered David liking it. Lucas threw it off with a strangled cry. I tried again, thinking maybe I'd done it wrong. Another scream. "Okay. No blanket." "That's fine." I left it folded at the foot of the bed and backed out of the room, my heart pounding. He didn't sleep. I could hear him humming all night, that same low, repetitive sound over and over and over, like a mantra, like the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. I didn't sleep either. I sat in the hallway outside his room, my back against the wall, listening to make sure he was safe. Tears ran down my face in the darkness. At 74 years old, I'd spent 35 years as a curator at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. I'd managed million-dollar collections, authenticated Renaissance paintings, supervised teams of specialists. I understood color theory, composition, the subtle gradations of light and shadow. But sitting in that dark hallway, listening to my grandson hum in distress, I realized I understood nothing about raising a child like Lucas. Saturday morning came gray and cold. I called Sarah at 7 a.m. No answer. Left a message. "Sarah, honey, please call me back. I need to know what Lucas eats, what his routines are, if he has any medications." No response. I called again at noon. At 4 p.m. At 8 p.m. that night. Every call went to voicemail. Sunday morning. Voicemail. Sunday afternoon. Voicemail. Sunday night, I left a different message. My voice was shaking. "Sarah, it's been 2 days. Lucas needs his mother. Please, whatever is going on, we can figure it out together. Just come back. Please come back." Monday morning, I called David's parents, Sarah's in-laws, who lived in Florida. They hadn't heard from her either. "We've been worried," David's mother said. "She stopped answering our calls months ago." By Monday afternoon, I was panicking. I called Lucas's pediatrician, Dr. Morrison, who'd been seeing him since birth. "Mrs. Sullivan," she said carefully, "Lucas has autism spectrum disorder. Has anyone discussed this with you? Has anyone talked to you about his therapy protocols?" Sarah was supposed to handle all of that. There was a long pause. "Well, you're handling it now?" That's when it hit me. Really hit me. Sarah wasn't coming back. The weekend had become a week. A week would become forever. My friend Linda from the museum called that evening. "Margaret, I haven't seen you at the gallery opening. Are you all right?" I broke down, told her everything. "My God," Linda breathed. "How can a mother just leave?" "I don't know," I sobbed. I gave her everything. When she said Lucas's therapy was too expensive, I gave her $10,000. $10,000, Linda, last month alone. I thought I was helping. I thought, you can't blame yourself. But I did. I wondered what I'd done wrong, what I'd said, how I'd failed. Tuesday morning, 1 week after Sarah left, I found Lucas in the living room at dawn. He was on the floor with a bin of toy cars I'd bought him. I was desperately buying things, hoping something would help, and he was lining them up in a perfect row. But it wasn't random. He'd arranged them by color in a way I couldn't understand at first. I sat on the couch and watched, barely breathing. Red car, then one slightly more orange, then more orange than the last, then yellow green, a gradient so subtle I had to squint to see the differences. He'd organized them by shade perfectly. "That's amazing, Lucas," I whispered. He didn't look at me. But he didn't stop arranging either. For the first time since Sarah left, he seemed calm. I sat there watching my grandson create order from chaos, creating beauty from confusion, and I thought, we're going to be okay. Somehow, we're going to be okay. I had no idea how wrong I was. I had no idea that 11 years later, when Lucas had built something extraordinary, Sarah would come back. And she wouldn't come back alone. But we weren't okay. Not even close. Those first weeks blurred into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every morning, I'd open my eyes hoping it had all been a horrible dream that Sarah would be at my door with an apology and an explanation. Instead, I'd hear Lucas humming from his room, that same low sound that had become the soundtrack of my new reality. I took him to his pediatrician, Dr. Morrison, on day 10. She was a kind woman in her 50s who'd practiced in Brookline for decades. When she examined Lucas, really looked at him, her expression shifted from professional to deeply concerned. "Mrs. Sullivan," she said softly after the examination, "Lucas needs to be evaluated by a developmental specialist. His autism requires comprehensive therapy, speech, occupational, behavioral. We're talking about multiple sessions per week." My hands trembled in my lap. "How much will that cost?" She hesitated. "With insurance? Probably $300 to $400 per week out of pocket." "Without insurance?" She trailed off meaningfully. $400 per week, $1,600 per month. On top of everything else. My museum pension was comfortable but not infinite. I'd already given Sarah over $30,000 in the past year alone, money I'd saved for decades, money I'd planned to leave for Lucas's future, money she'd claimed was for his therapy. Had any of it actually gone to Lucas? Or had I been funding her escape? "I'll find a way," I told Dr. Morrison, my voice hollow. She squeezed my hand. "Margaret, I need to ask, where is Sarah?" The question I'd been dreading. "I don't know. Have you filed a missing persons report?" "She's not missing. She left." The words tasted like ashes. She abandoned him. Dr. Morrison's jaw tightened. "That child needs his mother. That child needs someone who won't leave," I said, surprising myself with the sharpness in my voice. "I'm all he's got now." Getting Lucas to eat became my daily obsession. He refused everything: pasta, rice, soup, sandwiches. On day 12, he hadn't eaten a full meal since Sarah left. He was already thin. Now his cheekbones were starting to show. I tried making scrambled eggs one morning, desperate. Lucas took one look and turned away, but then he picked up his blue plastic cup, the one I'd given him that first night, and held it near the plate. "You want the eggs in the cup?" I asked, confused. He set the cup down and touched the edge of the plate. It took me 20 minutes to understand. He wanted the eggs on a specific plate, in a specific position, with nothing else touching them. When I finally got it right, scrambled eggs on a plain white plate, positioned in the upper left quadrant, with a piece of toast cut diagonally and placed separately in the lower right, he ate. He ate the entire serving. I burst into tears right there at the kitchen table, sobbing with relief while Lucas methodically finished his breakfast, completely oblivious to my breakdown. My friend Linda visited that afternoon. She'd been my colleague at the museum for 15 years, and we'd stayed close after I retired. She took one look at me: unwashed hair, coffee-stained sweater, dark circles under my eyes, and her face crumpled. "Oh, Margaret." "I'm fine," I lied. "You look like you haven't slept in weeks." "I haven't." I led her to the kitchen, away from Lucas, who was lining up his toy cars in the living room. "He doesn't sleep, Linda." Or, "He sleeps 2, maybe 3 hours. He hums all night. I'm afraid if I fall asleep, something will happen. What if he wanders? What if he hurts himself?" Linda gripped my hands. "You need help. Professional help. I can't afford it. Do you know what therapy costs? And Sarah. My voice cracked. I gave her $10,000 last month. $10,000. For Lucas's therapy, she said, for his special education program. And you know what? I found the checkbook. She never enrolled him anywhere. She just kept the money. Margaret, that's fraud. That's my daughter-in-law. I pulled away, wrapping my arms around myself. David loved her. Before he died, he made me promise to take care of her. And I did. Every time she called saying she couldn't afford Lucas's doctors, I sent money. When she said she needed a better car to drive him to appointments, I paid for it. $25,000 for Alexis. And she drove it away and never came back. Linda was quiet for a long moment. You're not going to hear from her again, are you? No. The word came out barely a whisper. I don't think I am. Then you need to file for guardianship. Legal guardianship. Before she comes back and tries to what? I snapped. Take him? She doesn't want him. She dumped him on my doorstep like he was trash. Lucas appeared in the doorway. We hadn't heard him approach. He was looking at the floor, rocking slightly, but something in his posture made me wonder how much he'd heard. Linda was just leaving, I said gently. After she left, I sat on the floor next to Lucas, not too close, giving him space. Your mom is going to come back, I told him, not knowing if it was a lie. She just needs some time. He didn't respond. Just kept rocking. But that night, something changed. I put him to bed, no blanket, no tucking in, just letting him arrange himself however he needed, and left his door cracked open. Instead of the humming, I heard crying. Soft, broken, heartbreaking crying. I stood in the hallway, my hand on the doorframe, tears streaming down my face. He understood. Somehow, this 6-year-old boy with autism who barely spoke understood that his mother was gone. Week 3 brought new challenges. Lucas had a complete meltdown at the grocery store. The fluorescent lights, the noise, the crowds were too much. He dropped to the floor screaming, hands clamped over his ears, and every single person stared at us. Control your child, a woman hissed, pushing her cart past us. He has autism, I said, kneeling beside Lucas, trying to shield him from the chaos around us. That's what they all say, another woman muttered. Kids these days just need discipline. I wanted to scream at them, wanted to tell them about Sarah, about the abandonment, about the nights of no sleep, and the constant fear that I was failing this precious boy. Instead, I just sat on that dirty supermarket floor next to my grandson and waited for the storm to pass. My neighbor, Mr. Patterson from across the street, found us like that. He was a retired teacher, 78 years old, who'd always waved hello but kept his distance. Now he crouched down beside us, his old knees creaking. Overstimulated? He asked quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. My grandson has autism too, he said. Lives in California. This looks like a sensory overload. Here he pulled off his cardigan and draped it over Lucas's head, creating a dark, quiet tent. Sometimes they just need less. Within 2 minutes, Lucas's screaming subsided to whimpers. Within 5, he was quiet. Thank you, I whispered. Mr. Patterson's eyes were kind. You're doing a good job, Margaret. Don't let anyone tell you different. That kindness shattered me. I sobbed right there in aisle 7, next to the cereal boxes, while this near stranger patted my shoulder and Lucas stayed hidden under the cardigan. The school district called on week 4. Lucas should have been in 1st grade. They'd been sending truancy notices to Sarah's address. He can't go to school yet, I told the attendance officer. He's not ready. Massachusetts law requires. I know what the law requires. My voice rose despite myself. His mother abandoned him a month ago. He barely eats. He doesn't sleep. He screams when people touch him. You want to throw him into a classroom of 30 kids and see what happens? There was a long pause. Mrs. Sullivan, you need to file for emergency guardianship. And Lucas needs an IEP, an individualized education program. I'm going to connect you with our special education coordinator. I ended up at the school district office the next week, drowning in paperwork. The special education coordinator, a weary woman named Miss Chen, no relation to my neighbor, laid out the reality. Lucas will need a specialized classroom, one-on-one aid, speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy. The district can provide some services, but you'll need to supplement with private therapy if you want the best outcomes. How much? I asked, though I already knew the answer would break me. With what the district provides, you're probably looking at another $200 to $300 per week out of pocket. Possibly more. I did the math. My pension was $3,000 per month. Therapy alone would be $1,600. Add in food, utilities, clothing, medical expenses. I was going to lose my house, the house where I'd raised David, where I'd lived for 42 years. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and my bank statements spread out like accusation letters. I'd given Sarah $68,000 over the past 2 years. $68,000. Money for therapy that never happened. Money for equipment he never received. Money for a special school that didn't exist. I'd been so desperate to help, so eager to support her as she struggled with Lucas's diagnosis, that I'd never questioned her. I just sent the money whenever she called, crying about how hard it was, how expensive everything was, how she couldn't cope, and she'd taken it all and left anyway. The betrayal felt physical. My chest hurt. My stomach churned. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left but bile and grief. When I came out shaking and weak, Lucas was standing in the hallway holding his blue plastic cup. He'd filled it with water. He set it on the floor at my feet and walked back to his room without a word. That small gesture, that tiny moment of care from a traumatized 6-year-old, broke something open inside me. I slid down the wall to the floor and sobbed until my ribs ached. But when I was done crying, I drank that water. I stood up, I washed my face, and I decided we were going to survive this. I didn't know how yet, I just knew we would. Because Lucas deserved someone who wouldn't give up on him. And I'd be that person even if it cost me everything I had left. It cost me everything sooner than I thought. December came with the first real snow, blanketing Brookline in white silence. Lucas loved watching it fall from the living room window, pressing his hands against the cold glass, mesmerized by the patterns. It was one of the few things that calmed him. I was in the kitchen making his breakfast scrambled eggs, positioned exactly as he needed them when my phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. My heart stopped. After 6 weeks of silence, she was finally calling. I answered on the second ring, my voice shaking. Sarah? Thank God. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine, Margaret. Her voice was flat, cold, like she was discussing the weather with a stranger. Fine? Sarah? You've been gone for 6 weeks. Lucas asks for you every... That was a lie. Lucas never asked. But I wanted her to feel something. Anything. I'm not coming back. The words hit me like a fist to the gut. I gripped the counter to stay upright. What? You heard me. Lucas is yours now. I can't do it anymore. Can't do what? You haven't been doing anything. I'm the one. Exactly. Her voice turned sharp, cutting. You're so good at it, Margaret. You and your perfect parenting skills, your perfect house, your perfect pension. You raised David, and look how perfect he turned out. The cruelty of that bringing up my dead son made me gasp. Sarah, please, whatever I did to upset you, I'm sorry. Just come home, we can figure this out together. Lucas needs his mother. Lucas needs someone who can stand to look at him. The silence that followed was deafening. In the background, I could hear music, laughter. She was at a party. She'd abandoned her son, and she was at a party. You don't mean that, I whispered. Don't I? She laughed. Bitter and harsh. Do you know what it's like, Margaret? Having everyone look at you with pity because your kid is broken, taking him to the park and watching normal kids play while he just lines up rocks? Going to the grocery store and having him scream like I'm murdering him? He's not broken. He's defective, she practically shouted it. And I didn't sign up for this. I married David, not his damaged DNA. I deserve a normal life. My legs gave out. I slid down the cabinet to the floor, phone pressed to my ear, unable to breathe. Sarah, please, I'm begging you, don't do this. It's already done. I'm in California. I'm starting over. You want to play grandma so badly? Congratulations. He's all yours. What about the money? The $68,000 I gave you for his therapy? She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was poison sweet. Oh, that? Yeah, I needed that. New car, new wardrobe, security deposit on my apartment. Thanks for being so generous, Margaret. You always were good with money. The room spun. You lied to me. about everything. I did what I had to do to survive. Maybe if you'd raised David better, he would have been strong enough to handle this. But he wasn't. He checked out emotionally way before the cancer took him. Left me alone with that thing. Don't you dare call him that. I was screaming now, tears streaming down my face. Lucas is a child. He's your child. Not anymore. He's yours. Enjoy your golden years, Grandma. Sarah, wait. The line went dead. I sat on that kitchen floor, and the screams that came out of me were animal sounds, raw and broken. I'd never made sounds like that before. Didn't know I could. Lucas appeared in the doorway. He stared at me with those enormous brown eyes. David's eyes, and I saw something flicker across his face. Fear, maybe, or recognition of pain. I'm sorry, I choked out. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. He walked over, picked up his blue cup from the counter, and handed it to me. Then he went back to the living room to watch the snow. I called my lawyer James Chen the next morning. I'd used him for estate planning years ago when David got sick. Now I needed him for something else entirely. Margaret, I'm so sorry, he said after I'd explained everything. But I have to be honest with you, filing for guardianship without the mother's consent can be very expensive. We're talking legal fees of $15,000 to $20,000, possibly more if she fights it. She won't fight it. She doesn't want him. Then get her to sign papers terminating her parental rights. That would be much simpler. I tried. I called Sarah 17 times over the next 3 days. Every call went to voicemail. I left messages begging at first, then angry, then begging again. She never responded. Finally, on day 4, she sent a text. Stop calling or I'll block you. I told you, he's yours. Deal with it. I need you to sign legal documents. I texted back. Not my problem anymore. That was it. That was the last I heard from her. My friend Linda came over that evening and found me at the kitchen table surrounded by bills and legal documents, a bottle of wine half empty beside me. Margaret, you can't do this to yourself. Do what? Try to figure out how to afford to raise a child on a fixed income? Try to understand how a mother could just throw away her son? I laughed, but it came out broken. I gave her everything, Linda. Everything. And it wasn't enough. I wasn't enough. This isn't about you. Then what is it about? I stood up, knocking over my wine glass. Red liquid spread across the white papers like blood. Why does everyone keep leaving? David died. Sarah left. And Lucas is stuck with a 74-year-old woman who doesn't know what the hell she's doing. Linda grabbed my shoulders. Stop it. You're grieving and you're exhausted, but Lucas needs you to hold it together. I can't. My voice broke. I'm not strong enough. Then get stronger. But getting stronger required money I didn't have. The therapy bills were piling up. Lucas needed speech therapy 3 times a week, $600 per week that insurance barely touched. Occupational therapy twice a week, another $400. Behavioral therapy, special education assessment, medical appointments, it never stopped. By Christmas, I'd burned through my emergency savings. The account I'd been building for 20 years gone in 2 months. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen from next door, noticed me crying on my front porch on Christmas Eve. Lucas was inside, content with his toy cars, oblivious to the holiday. Margaret? What's wrong? I couldn't hold it in anymore. I'm going to lose my house. She sat down beside me, this tiny woman in her 70s who'd survived immigration, poverty, and raising 4 kids alone after her husband died. Tell me. So I did. I told her about Sarah's betrayal, about the $68,000, about the mounting bills, about lying awake at night calculating how many more months I could hold on before everything collapsed. How much do you need? Mrs. Chen asked. Oh, no. I couldn't. How much, Margaret? $3,000, just to get through January and February. But I can't take your money. You're not taking it, I'm giving it. She stood up, brushed snow off her coat. You helped my son when he struggled in school 20 years ago. You tutored him for free, convinced the school to give him another chance. He's a doctor now because of you. $3,000? She waved her hand dismissively. That's nothing compared to what you gave us. I broke down completely. I can't pay you back. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to take care of that boy. That's payment enough. She brought me a check on Christmas Day. $3,000 that kept the mortgage paid and the lights on. But generosity couldn't solve everything. Lucas wasn't improving fast enough. The school district wanted him in a specialized program excellent for him, devastating for my budget. $400 per month in additional fees. Mr. Patterson from across the street, the retired teacher who'd helped us in the grocery store, heard about my situation through the neighborhood grapevine. He showed up at my door in January with a proposition. "I taught special education for 35 years, he said. "Let me work with Lucas. 3 afternoons a week, no charge. I'm retired, I'm bored, and that boy reminds me of my grandson." "Mr. Patterson, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." His eyes were kind but firm. "Margaret, you're drowning. Let someone throw you a rope." I accepted because I had no choice. And Lucas, miracle of miracles, responded to Mr. Patterson. Something about the old man's calm presence, his patience, his complete lack of judgment. But even with help, I was failing. My blood pressure skyrocketed. I developed stress-induced shingles. I lost 20 pounds because I was so focused on making sure Lucas ate that I forgot to feed myself. And every night, I lay awake thinking about Sarah's words. "He's defective. I deserve a normal life." The cruelty of it haunted me. How could a mother look at her child, any child, but especially her own, and see him as broken? Lucas wasn't broken. He was different. He was challenging. He was going to need support his entire life. But he was also observant, brilliant in his way, capable of such unexpected tenderness. The way he brought me his blue cup when I was upset. The way he arranged his toy cars in gradients so beautiful they made me cry. The way he stood at the window for hours, completely at peace, watching snow fall. Sarah had thrown away something precious, and she'd done it without a backward glance. On Valentine's Day, I found Lucas at my desk. He'd taken out the picture album, the one he'd brought in his backpack that first night. He was staring at a photo of Sarah holding him as a baby, her smile bright and false even then. "She's not coming back, is she?" he asked. It was the most words he'd ever said to me at once. I knelt beside him, my knees protesting. "No, sweetheart, I don't think she is." He nodded slowly, closed the album, and handed it to me. Then he walked to his room and shut the door. I looked at that album, at Sarah's lying smile, at baby Lucas who had no idea what was coming, and I made a decision. We weren't just going to survive this. We were going to build something better than survival. I didn't know how yet. I just knew that somehow, some way, I would make sure Lucas had everything he needed, even if it destroyed me in the process. "You've made it this far, go ahead and hit. Like to let me know you're still with me. You know, every share you make might help someone out there find a little hope. And before we continue, don't forget to subscribe because who knows, the next story might just touch your heart." Destroying me turned out to be a gradual process, like water wearing down stone. The years between 2011 and 2014 became a relentless cycle of sameness, which was exactly what Lucas needed and exactly what was killing me. Every single morning I woke at 6:15. Not 6, not 6:30, 6:15 precisely, because that's when Lucas woke, and any deviation from his internal clock triggered a meltdown that could last hours. Scrambled eggs. Toast cut diagonally. Positioned on the white plate in exactly the same configuration. The blue cup filled with water to the same level. I'd marked it with a piece of tape because being off by even half an inch meant he wouldn't drink. Every single day. My friend Linda tried to sympathize. "At least you have a routine," she said one morning when she dropped by with groceries. She'd been doing that weekly since she realized I barely left the house anymore. "A routine?" I laughed, hollow. "Linda, I can't take a different route to the grocery store. If I turn left instead of right, Lucas screams in the car. I can't rearrange the furniture. I tried moving the couch 2 inches and he didn't sleep for 3 days. This isn't a routine, it's a prison." She flinched at my tone. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean." "No, I'm sorry." I rubbed my face, exhausted. I haven't slept more than 4 hours in 3 years. I'm so tired. But tired wasn't quite the word. Depleted was closer. Hollowed out. Some mornings I'd catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror and not recognize myself. Where had Margaret Sullivan gone? The woman who'd curated exhibitions at the MFA? Who'd traveled to Florence and Paris? Who'd had opinions about art and politics and life? That woman had disappeared, replaced by someone who knew the exact angle Lucas's toast needed to be cut and which fluorescent lights at Target would trigger a sensory overload. When Lucas turned 7 in 2012, something shifted. The obsessive patterns, the car arrangements, the symbol drawings started evolving. I found him at the kitchen table one afternoon, not drawing symbols but actual letters. Not random letters, organized letters. Grouped by shape, by sound, by some logic only he understood. "Lucas, are you writing?" I asked, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. Dr. Morrison had warned me that pushing him could backfire. He didn't answer, just kept writing. BPR, BPR, over and over. Later I asked his speech therapist, Miss Patterson, Mr. Patterson's daughter, who'd taken over some of Lucas's sessions, what it meant. "He's categorizing," she explained. "See how B and P are similar sounds? Both use the lips. R uses the tongue differently. He's organizing language the way he organizes everything else, by pattern. Is that normal?" She smiled. "Nothing about Lucas is normal, Margaret. But it's brilliant. He's teaching himself phonics through pattern recognition. Most kids need to be taught this. He's figuring it out alone." I went home that day and watched Lucas write his letters. And for the first time in years, I felt something other than desperation. I felt hope. But hope was expensive. His speech therapy alone was now $700 per week. Insurance covered almost nothing. They'd classified autism services as developmental, not medical, which apparently meant they didn't have to pay. I'd gone through every penny of my savings. I'd taken a reverse mortgage on the house I'd promised myself I'd leave to Lucas. Now the bank owned more of it than I did. Mrs. Chen noticed me selling things. My late husband's coin collection went first, then my jewelry, not the expensive pieces. I'd sold those years ago. These were the sentimental things. My mother's wedding ring, the pearl necklace David had given me on his 16th birthday. "Margaret, no," Mrs. Chen said when she saw me loading boxes into my car for the consignment shop. "Not your mother's ring. It's just sitting in a drawer. Lucas needs you healthy and whole, not sacrificing everything. Everything I have is for Lucas now." I slammed the trunk harder than necessary. There is no me anymore. There's just Lucas's grandmother who makes eggs the right way and knows which route to take to the therapy center. She grabbed my arm, surprisingly strong for someone so small. "You're making yourself a martyr. That boy needs a grandmother, not a ghost." But I was already a ghost. I'd canceled my museum membership because I couldn't afford it. I'd stopped attending gallery openings because I couldn't leave Lucas with just anyone. The one time I'd tried, hiring a supposedly autism-trained babysitter, I'd come home to find Lucas in full meltdown and the babysitter in tears. I'd stopped seeing most of my friends because I had nothing to talk about except therapy schedules and IEP meetings. Linda was the only one who stuck around, and even she was pulling away. I could see it in her eyes when she visited. The pity. The relief that this wasn't her life. The subtle glances at her watch. The school district became my newest battle when Lucas turned 8. Principal Anderson wanted him in the special education classroom full-time. I fought for inclusion, at least partial mainstream classes. Mrs. Sullivan, Principal Anderson, said during one particularly brutal IEP meeting, Lucas would be more comfortable with his own kind. His own kind. Like Lucas was a different species. "Lucas is perfectly comfortable," I said, my voice ice. "What you mean is that Lucas makes you uncomfortable. He doesn't make eye contact during circle time. He doesn't participate the way you want him to, but he's reading at a 5th grade level at age 8. His math is even higher. The problem isn't Lucas. The problem is your teachers don't want to deal with a child who's different. That's not fair." "You know what's not fair?" I stood up, my chair scraping loud in the quiet room. His mother abandoned him. She took $68,000 from me, money I'd saved my entire life, and used it to start over in California while her son rocked himself to sleep every night. I'm 77 years old. I should be retired, traveling, enjoying my grandchildren. Instead, I'm fighting you people tooth and nail for basic human decency. So don't talk to me about fair. I won that battle. Barely. Lucas got his inclusion classes, but the victory felt hollow. Every meeting, every fight, every moment of having to prove my grandson deserved the same education as other kids, it chipped away at me. Mr. Patterson found me crying on my porch one evening after a particularly bad IEP meeting. He didn't say anything, just sat down beside me in the cold March air. "I can't do this much longer," I whispered. "Yes, you can. I'm almost 80 years old. 77. Close enough. I'm tired. I'm so tired I can barely stand up some days. And Lucas, he's brilliant, I see it now, but he's going to need help his whole life. What happens when I'm gone? Who's going to fight for him then?" Mr. Patterson was quiet for a long moment. "My grandson? The one in California with autism? He's 23 now, living in a group home. His parents spent his whole childhood fighting just like you are, and you know what he does now?" I shook my head. "He works at a grocery store. Stocks shelves. Has a routine. Makes minimum wage. But he's happy, Margaret. He has a life. Because his parents didn't give up, even when it nearly destroyed them." "Nearly?" "It destroyed their marriage. They divorced when he was 14. The stress was too much." I thought about that. About how this had cost me everything, my savings, my health, my social life, my peace. About how I'd given and given until there was nothing left to give. "Was it worth it?" I asked. "For them, I mean." Mr. Patterson smiled sadly. "Ask them, and they'd say yes without hesitation." "Ask me?" He paused. "I think sometimes love costs everything. And sometimes you pay anyway. Because what's the alternative?" The alternative was what Sarah had chosen. Walking away. Starting over. Pretending Lucas didn't exist. That night, I found Lucas in his room, writing in one of his notebooks. Not symbols anymore, actual words now. Simple words, but words nonetheless. Egg, toast, home, school. And then, at the bottom of the page, Grandma. He'd never called me that before. Never written it. I'd just been Margaret in his mind, if I was anything at all. I stood in his doorway, tears running down my face, and watched him write my name over and over, perfecting each letter. When Lucas turned 9 in 2013, his obsession with patterns intensified. But now it wasn't just toy cars and letters. It was everything. He'd notice if a picture frame was crooked, if the mail arrived 15 minutes late, if the traffic light timing changed. One morning, driving to therapy, he spoke up from the back seat. "The light on Beacon Street is wrong." "What, honey?" "The traffic light. It stays red 43 seconds. The others are 38. That's inefficient." I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was staring out the window, not at me, stating this as simple fact. "How do you know that?" I counted. Every day for 3 weeks. "It's always 43 seconds. Someone should fix it." He was right, of course. I started counting too, and he was exactly right. To the second. My boy, this child everyone wanted to hide away in special classrooms, could count traffic light intervals in his head while I was struggling to remember if I'd taken my blood pressure medication. At the grocery store, he caught a pricing error. Those apples are marked wrong. The sign says $2.49 per pound, but they're charging $2.52. I checked the receipt. 3 cents difference per pound. Most people would never notice. Lucas noticed everything. Dr. Morrison commented on it during his annual checkup. His observational skills are remarkable, and his memory, Margaret. Has he always been this precise? Since he could talk, he remembers every route we've ever taken, every meal he's eaten, every person we've met. Sometimes I think he remembers my life better than I do. She made a note in his chart. That's not typical even for autism. Lucas's brain is processing and storing information at an extraordinary level. What does that mean? I don't know yet, but I think Lucas is going to surprise us all. She had no idea how right she was. That Christmas, Lucas asked me a question that broke my heart all over again. We were decorating cookies, a tradition I'd tried to start, though Lucas never ate them, just watched me decorate. He was lining up colored sprinkles by shade when he suddenly spoke. "Why doesn't Mom want me?" My hands froze. "Oh, Lucas, sweetheart, I'm different. That's why." "You're not." "I am different." He finally looked at me, those brown eyes so much like David's. "I know I am. Other kids don't do things the way I do. Mom knew that. That's why she left." I pulled him close, expecting him to pull away like he usually did, but he let me hug him, his small body rigid but present. "Your mom's leaving had nothing to do with you being different. It had everything to do with her being broken. Can broken people be fixed?" I thought about Sarah. About the mother who'd valued money and freedom over her own child. About the daughter-in-law who'd called Lucas defective. "I don't know," I answered honestly, "but it doesn't matter. Because you don't need fixing, Lucas. You're exactly who you're supposed to be." He pulled away then, went back to organizing his sprinkles. But later that night, I found a note on my pillow. 4 words in Lucas's careful handwriting. "Thank you for staying." I clutched that note and cried harder than I'd cried since Sarah's phone call 3 years earlier. Because he understood. This 9-year-old boy understood sacrifice and love and choice. And somehow, that understanding made every impossible day worth it. Lucas's special ability, his gift for seeing what others missed, fully revealed itself when he turned 10 in 2014. I'd taken him to the Museum of Fine Arts for the first time since Sarah left. It was a risk. Museums meant crowds, unpredictable noise, fluorescent lighting that could trigger a meltdown. But it was my world, the place where I'd spent 35 years of my life, and some desperate part of me wanted to share it with him. We stood in front of a Rothko painting large blocks of color, deceptively simple. Most people walked past it quickly, unimpressed. Lucas stopped dead. He tilted his head, stepped closer, stepped back. His eyes moved across the canvas with an intensity I'd never seen before. "Lucas, are you okay?" "There are 7 layers," he said quietly, "not 3. "What?" "Everyone thinks it's 3 layers of color, but there are 7. The blue isn't pure blue. There's red underneath, and yellow in the corner, and white mixed in the upper section. 7 distinct applications." I stared at the painting. I'd looked at this piece hundreds of times during my years at the museum. I saw 3 colors. 3 layers. "How do you know that?" "I can see them. The layers. The way the colors overlap. The brush strokes underneath." He pointed. "See there? That's not shadow. That's a different shade of pigment showing through." My heart began to race. "Lucas, are you sure?" "I'm always sure about patterns." I pulled out my phone, searched the museum database. I still had access to the curatorial archives, found the technical analysis of that specific Rothko, felt the breath leave my lungs. 7 layers. Exactly as Lucas had said. Information that came from X-ray analysis and infrared imaging, things the human eye couldn't see. Except Lucas had seen them. "Come with me," I said, grabbing his hand. He didn't pull away, which was its own miracle. I took him through the galleries, stopping at painting after painting. At each one, Lucas would study it silently, then tell me what he saw. Not just the obvious, the hidden, the beneath. A Monet. The water lilies were painted over something else. There's a bridge underneath. He changed his mind. A Rembrandt. This part was done by a student, not him. See how the brush strokes are different? Less confident. A supposed Vermeer. This one's fake. The blue pigment is wrong. Vermeer used natural ultramarine. This is synthetic. It wasn't invented until later. That last one made me stop completely. "Lucas, that painting has been authenticated by every major expert." He shrugged. "The pigment is wrong." I checked when we got home. 2 years later, that painting would be confirmed as a forgery. The synthetic pigment was the key evidence. My 10-year-old grandson could see what multi-million-dollar equipment could barely detect. Linda came over that evening. She'd been visiting Les, but this I had to share. "He can analyze paintings, Linda. Not just appreciate them. Actually analyze their composition, their authenticity, their history, just by looking." "Margaret, that's incredible." "It's more than incredible. I struggled for the word. It's valuable. Do you know what art authentication costs? What museums pay for technical analysis?" Linda's expression shifted. Don't what?" "Don't turn his gift into a commodity." "He's 10 years old." "I'm not. I just mean that maybe this is how Lucas can have a future. A real future, not just stocking shelves somewhere." The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but the fear was real. I was 78 years old. My reverse mortgage was eating my house. My pension barely covered our expenses. "What happens when I die, Linda?" "Who takes care of him then?" She softened. "I understand you're worried." "Worried?" I laughed bitterly. "I'm terrified. Every single day I'm terrified." Sarah took everything and left him with nothing. No college fund, no trust, no safety net. Just a grandmother who's running out of time and money. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood in Lucas's doorway watching him sleep one of the few times he looked peaceful. His room was exactly as he needed it. Toys arranged by size and color, books ordered by height, everything in its precise place. What would happen to all this when I was gone? Would he end up in a group home where nobody understood that his egg had to be positioned exactly right? Where nobody knew that he needed the same route every day, the same routines, the same careful preservation of order? The thought made me physically ill. I barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting. I was cleaning myself up when I heard Lucas behind me. He was standing in the hallway in his pajamas, holding his blue cup, that same cup from 4 years ago, now cracked and faded but irreplaceable. "You're scared," he said. "Not a question. An observation." "Yes," I admitted. "I'm scared." "Of dying?" The directness of it so typically Lucas made me smile despite everything. "Yes. Of dying and leaving you alone." He thought about that for a long moment. "I won't be alone. I'll remember everything. Every route you taught me. Every routine. Every rule. It's all stored." He tapped his head, and my heart shattered. "Oh, Lucas, that's not the same as having someone who loves you. You love me." "Yes. That's stored too. So I'll always have it." I pulled him into a hug, this brilliant, strange, perfect boy who processed love like data and meant it as the highest compliment. The next week, I made a decision. I bought Lucas a tablet for his birthday, a proper one, expensive, bought with money I didn't have but borrowed from Mrs. Chen, who refused to hear the word no. Lucas figured it out in less than a day. Within a week, he downloaded a scanning app and was photographing pages from his notebooks, years of careful observations, patterns, data, creating digital copies of everything. "Why are you doing that?" I asked. "So I don't lose it," he said simply. "If something happens to the notebooks, I'll still have the information." But I was starting to understand it was more than that. Lucas was building something. An archive. A system. A way of preserving not just information but proof of his existence, his observations, his way of seeing the world. His speech therapist, Miss Patterson, noticed the change too. "He's more focused than ever." "What happened?" "He discovered he has a gift," I said. "For seeing patterns in art, in color, in authenticity, he can look at a painting and tell you things that technical analysis takes weeks to determine." Her eyes widened. "Margaret, that's extraordinary. Have you considered?" "What? Putting him on display? Having him perform for art dealers?" "No," she said patiently. "I mean, have you considered that this might be his path? His way of connecting with the world? Autism isn't just challenges. Sometimes it comes with abilities that are genuinely superhuman." Superhuman. My Lucas. I thought about that word constantly over the next months. Because Lucas was developing other abilities too. He could glance at a receipt and spot errors immediately. He could hear a song once and hum it back perfectly. He could look at a person's face and tell me things about them I'd never noticed. Once, during a parent-teacher conference, Principal Anderson smiled at me while discussing Lucas's progress. In the car afterward, Lucas said, "He doesn't like me." "What?" "No, honey." He was being nice. His face was wrong. The smile didn't match. "What do you mean?" "When people really smile, the muscles around their eyes contract. His didn't. He was pretending." I thought about every interaction I'd had with Principal Anderson, about the cold eyes behind the professional smile. Lucas was right. The man had been sabotaging us with politeness, making everything harder while maintaining plausible deniability. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Faces are patterns too. Most people can't read them accurately. I can. My grandson could detect lies better than any polygraph machine, could authenticate art better than laboratory equipment, could see patterns in chaos that most people couldn't see with assistance. And I desperate, broke, terrified 78-year-old me had no idea what to do with any of it. Mrs. Chen found me crying in my garden one afternoon in late autumn. "Margaret, what now?" "He's gifted, Mrs. Chen. Genuinely, remarkably gifted, and I'm wasting it. He should be learning from experts, developing his abilities, preparing for a future where he can use these skills. But I can't afford any of that. I can barely afford his basic therapy. She sat down beside me on the cold ground, her old bones creaking. You think money is what he needs? Money is what enables everything else. No. Her voice was firm. Love is what enables everything else. You've given him stability, routine, safety. You've fought schools and doctors and bureaucrats. You've sacrificed your health, your savings, your life. That's the foundation. The rest will come. When? When I'm dead and he's alone? Maybe sooner than you think. She was right, though neither of us knew it yet. That winter, Lucas asked me for something unusual. I need my birth certificate. Why? I want to see it. I found it in my filing cabinet, the one I'd meticulously maintained since David was born, expanding it to include Lucas when he came to live with me. Birth certificate, social security card, medical records, school documents, everything. Lucas studied his birth certificate for a long time. Can I have copies of everything? All my records? Why do you need all this? I want to see it, to make sure it's all there, to understand what happened. I thought he was processing his abandonment, trying to make sense of why Sarah had left by examining the paper trail of his existence. It seemed healthy, therapeutic even. So I helped him scan everything into his tablet, birth records, medical history, every legal document I'd carefully preserved. He saved them with meticulous care, backed them up, created folders with labels I didn't quite understand. What are you building, Lucas? A system, he said, so nothing gets lost. Lost? Changed. Forgotten. Lead about. I kissed the top of his head. He allowed it now, sometimes. Okay, buddy, whatever helps. I thought he was healing from trauma. I didn't know he was building a weapon. A weapon we'd need much sooner than I could ever have imagined. Because Sarah wasn't done with us. She'd been waiting, watching, biding her time. And when Lucas finally built something valuable enough, she'd come back to take it. The only question was whether we'd be ready. Lucas discovered coding the summer he turned 12, and it changed everything. I found him at the kitchen table one afternoon in June 2017, hunched over my old MacBook, the one I'd bought back when I still worked at the museum and hadn't touched in years. The screen was filled with text that looked like gibberish to me, lines of words and symbols and brackets that made no sense. Lucas, what are you doing? Learning about digital art restoration. He didn't look up, his eyes glued to the screen. I'm watching online courses about spectral analysis, paint aging identification, and forgery detection. I leaned over his shoulder. The screen showed lectures about chemical analysis, X-ray techniques for paintings, and methods for detecting fake artwork. Is this for school? No. I just want to learn it. That was so perfectly Lucas. While other 12-year-olds were at summer camp or playing video games, my grandson was teaching himself advanced art forensics. Why art restoration? He finally looked at me, one of those rare moments of direct eye contact, because art lies sometimes. People forge paintings, change them, claim they're something they're not. But the truth is always there if you know how to see it. The layers tell the real story. Something in the way he said it, the layers tell the real story, made my chest tighten. He wasn't just talking about art anymore. I left him alone. That's what worked with Lucas. Let him follow his obsessions wherever they led. He spent the entire summer on that laptop. While the neighborhood kids played basketball and went to the pool, Lucas was learning about digital imaging, color analysis, and authentication techniques. I'd bring him lunch and he'd eat without looking away from the screen. His blue cup would sit beside the laptop, water half drunk and forgotten. By August, he was showing me things he'd created, small programs that analyzed images of paintings, identified paint layers, detected inconsistencies. This one sorts brushstrokes by pressure and direction, he explained. This one finds color anomalies that suggest the painting was altered. This one checks if two paintings were done by the same hand based on technique patterns. That's remarkable, Lucas. He nodded, kept typing. In September, I used the last of my savings money I'd been hoarding for emergencies, of which we'd had plenty to buy him a real computer. A 27-inch iMac with a Retina display for accurate color analysis. The salesman at the Apple store asked what Lucas would use it for. Digital art authentication, Lucas said. I need accurate color reproduction and high processing power for image analysis. The salesman blinked. How old are you? 12. That's a pretty advanced application for... I'm autistic, not stupid. Lucas's voice was flat, factual. I can see patterns in paintings that most people can't see. I need proper equipment to document what I observe. The salesman looked at me. I just smiled tiredly. He knows what he needs. At home, Lucas set up the new computer in his room, David's old room, which had become Lucas's world. I made him promise to still come out for meals and sleep at reasonable hours. I promise, he said, but his mind was already back in that digital world I couldn't enter. One evening in October, he called me to his room. "Grandma, I want to show you something." I sat on the edge of his bed, still made the same way every day, blanket folded at the foot, never used. He pulled up a program on his screen. "What is it?" "Watch." He opened an image, a photograph of a painting from the museum's collection, a Monet water lily piece. Then he ran his program. Numbers appeared on the screen, long strings of them. "That's a digital signature," he explained, "like a fingerprint for the artwork. Every painting has one based on its exact composition, colors, layers, brush strokes, everything." "Okay," I said, not really understanding. He opened the image again in Photoshop, changed one tiny detail, moved a single water lily slightly to the left and saved it, then ran the program again. Different numbers appeared. "See? The signature changed. That means the artwork was altered. So you can tell if someone edits something. So you can detect if a painting has been changed. Or a document, or a photograph, or any digital image." He looked at me with those intense eyes. "So things stay true." I thought about all the school meetings where administrators had said one thing and later claimed they'd said something else. All the times I'd wished I had proof. All the ways Sarah had lied and left me with nothing but my word against hers. "That's brilliant, Lucas." He turned back to his screen. "It's just pattern recognition. Digital instead of physical. Just pattern recognition, as if that wasn't everything." My friend Linda visited the next week, one of her increasingly rare visits. She found me in the kitchen making Lucas's exact breakfast while he worked in his room. "Margaret, you look exhausted." "I am exhausted. But Lucas is doing something amazing. He's building this system that can verify if images have been altered. It's like I struggled to explain. It's like a truth detector for art." Linda's expression was cautious. "That's wonderful. But Margaret, he's 12. He should be playing with other kids, developing social skills." "He's developing the skills he has," I snapped, "not the skills you think he should have." She flinched. "I didn't mean—" "Everyone always means it, Linda. Everyone wants Lucas to be normal, to play normal games and have normal interests and be a normal kid. But he's not normal, he's extraordinary. And for once, his extraordinary mind is building something instead of just surviving school and therapy and people's low expectations." "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I just worry about you. You're 80 years old." 79. "Fine, 79. You should be traveling, relaxing, enjoying retirement. Instead, you're raising a special needs child alone." "I'm not alone," I said, surprising myself. "I have Lucas. And yes, it's hard. Yes, I'm tired. Yes, I gave up the life I thought I'd have. But Linda, do you know what he's building in there? A system that could change how we authenticate art. A system that major museums might actually need. Or it's just a 12-year-old playing with computers." After she left, I stood at Lucas's door watching him work. 3 monitors now. I'd bought 2 more with money borrowed from Mrs. Chen, who'd stopped even pretending she wanted to be paid back. All showing different screens of code and images and data. Was Linda right? Was I projecting my desperation onto Lucas's hobby? Seeing a future that didn't exist because I was terrified of the future that did? "Grandma?" Lucas spoke without turning around. "Are you okay?" "Yes, honey. Just thinking." "About money?" The perceptiveness startled me. "How did you know?" "You're always worried about money. I hear you on the phone with the bank. I see the bills on the table. I know we don't have enough." My throat tightened. "Lucas, that's not your burden. When I'm older, I'll make money. With this." He gestured at his screens. "People will pay for systems that verify truth. I've been researching. Art forgery costs millions of dollars every year. Document fraud costs even more. A reliable verification system would be valuable. Sweetheart, you don't need to worry about." "I'm not worried. I'm planning." He finally turned to look at me. You've taken care of me for 7 years. You gave up everything. I'm going to take care of you." I sat down on his bed because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. This 12-year-old boy, this child who struggled to make eye contact and couldn't handle unexpected changes, was promising to take care of me. "Lucas, I don't need you to take care of me." "Yes, you do. You're 79. Your health isn't good. Your blood pressure medication is on the counter. You take it every morning. The reverse mortgage on the house means we'll lose it eventually. Your pension barely covers our expenses. You need someone to take care of you." Every fact delivered with his characteristic directness, and every fact true. I'd thought I was hiding my struggles from him. Apparently, Lucas saw everything. "How long have you known all this?" "Since I was 9. I found the mortgage papers when I was looking for my birth certificate. I found the medical bills when I was organizing the filing cabinet. I see the balance on the checkbook when you leave it on the table." He paused. "I've known for 3 years that you're drowning. I've been working for 3 years to build something that could save us." The room spun. 3 years? I started with the toy cars, pattern recognition, then the symbols and letters organizing information, then art analysis seeing what others miss, now digital systems preserving truth. It all builds, Grandma. Every skill builds on the last. "You've been preparing all this time?" "Yes." I understood then. This wasn't a hobby. This wasn't a child playing with computers. This was Lucas systematically developing the skills he'd need to survive without me, to thrive without me. And somehow, that broke my heart and mended it at the same time. That night, Mr. Patterson came by. He'd been doing weekly check-ins since he started working with Lucas years ago. I told him what Lucas had said. "Margaret, that boy is something special. He's planning his future like it's a chess game. At 12 years old, he's autistic. Planning is how he manages anxiety. The future is terrifying for kids like Lucas, so much uncertainty, so many variables. Creating systems, making plans, building skills, that's his way of creating certainty. But he's doing it for me, to take care of me." Mr. Patterson smiled. "That's love, Margaret. It just looks different than you expected." Over the next months, Lucas's project expanded. He asked me if I could digitize all my binders, the school meeting notes, the IEP documents, the therapy records, everything. If you find this part truly thought-provoking, go ahead and hit like to show your support. Do you feel the same way as the character in this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. "That's a lot of scanning, Lucas." "I know, but I want everything in the system." "What system?" "The one I'm building, so nothing gets lost or changed." We spent weeks on it. I'd pull out binders, years of fighting for Lucas, years of documentation proving he deserved every opportunity, and Lucas would scan page after page. IEP meeting notes from 2014, therapy assessments from 2012, report cards, progress notes, incident reports. He didn't just scan them. He did something to each file on his computer, adding layers of information I couldn't see. "What are you adding?" I asked once. "Timestamps, verification codes, hash values." He paused. "Each document connects to the ones before and after it. Like a chain. If someone tries to change one link, the whole chain breaks." "Why would someone change them?" He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "People lie, Grandma. They change stories, alter facts, rewrite history. Documentation is the only defense." "Defense against what?" "Against people who want to take things that don't belong to them." A chill ran down my spine. "Lucas, who would want to take anything from us? We don't have anything." He didn't answer, just went back to scanning. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas knew something I didn't. That he was preparing for a battle I couldn't see coming. And that somehow, after 7 years of silence, that battle had something to do with Sarah. Lucas turned 13 in November 2018, and something fundamental shifted between us. He'd been mostly nonverbal for the first 3 years, with me humming, single words, occasional short sentences. By age 9, he'd started speaking in complete thoughts. But it was always factual, always about immediate needs or observations, never about feelings, never about the past. Until one morning at breakfast, when he looked up from his precisely positioned eggs and asked, "Do you think my mother ever loved me?" I nearly dropped the coffee pot. In 8 years, he'd barely mentioned Sarah, that one question about why she left when he was 9, and then nothing. I'd assumed he'd processed it in his own way, filed it away like he filed everything else, organized, categorized, stored. "Oh, Lucas." I sat down across from him. "I think she loved you the only way she knew how." But it wasn't enough. She wasn't enough. Was it because I'm autistic? No, sweetheart. It was because she was broken in ways that had nothing to do with you. He nodded slowly, went back to eating. But 5 minutes later, "Did you ever want to leave?" The question hit me like a physical blow. What? No, never. But it's hard. Taking care of me? I know it's hard. Yes, it's hard. But Lucas, loving someone doesn't mean leaving when things get hard. It means staying anyway. Even when it costs everything. I reached across the table, he let me take his hand, which was rare and precious, especially then. He looked at our joined hands, studying them like he studied everything. I'm going to make sure it was worth it. It already is worth it. Every single day. No. He pulled his hand back. Not yet. But it will be. That conversation haunted me. The determination in his voice. The sense that Lucas was building towards something specific, something he could see that I couldn't. Mrs. Chen found me in my garden the next afternoon, pulling weeds I'd neglected for months. My arthritis made every movement painful, but the physical pain was easier than sitting still with my thoughts. "Margaret, you're going to hurt yourself." "I'm already hurting." I sat back on my heels, wiping sweat from my forehead. Everything hurts these days. She lowered herself to the ground beside me, both of us. Too old to be sitting in dirt, but there we were. What did Lucas say? "How do you always know?" "Because I know you. And I know that look on your face. That's not arthritis pain, that's heart pain." I told her about the conversation, about Lucas's questions and his cryptic promise. "That boy is planning something," Mrs. Chen said thoughtfully. "That's what scares me. He's 13 years old. He should be planning what video game to play next," not I gestured helplessly. "Not whatever this is. This system he's building, this obsession with documentation and verification. It feels like he's preparing for war." "Maybe he is. Against who?" "We don't have enemies, Mrs. Chen. We're just trying to survive." She looked at me with those wise, tired eyes. "You have 68,000 reasons why Sarah might come back someday." My blood ran cold. That was 8 years ago. She's gone. She wanted nothing to do with him. She wanted nothing to do with a struggling autistic 6-year-old. But Lucas isn't that child anymore. He's brilliant. He's building something valuable. And greedy people have a way of showing up when there's something worth taking. You think Sarah would come back? After 8 years? I think Lucas thinks she will, and I think he's been preparing for it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood outside Lucas's room. He was still awake at 2 a.m. I could see light under his door. I knocked softly. "Come in, Grandma." He was at his computer, multiple screens showing code and documents. His blue cup sat next to the keyboard, empty now but ever present. "Lucas, it's 2 a.m. "I know. I'm almost done with this section." "Done with what?" He turned to look at me. "Building the evidence." "Evidence of what?" "Of what really happened. Not what people say happened. What actually happened." He pulled up a screen showing my old calendar from November 2010 scanned, digitized, every entry preserved. "See? November 15th, 2010. Sarah dropped Lucas. Call her Sunday. November 17th. Still no call from Sarah. November 22nd. Try Sarah again. Every attempt you made to reach her. Every day she didn't come back. All documented." My hands were shaking. "Why do you need this?" "Because when someone lies, you need proof they're lying. When someone claims they were present, you need proof they were absent. When someone says they cared, you need proof they didn't." "Lucas, who's going to lie?" He looked at me like I was missing something obvious. The same person who lied before. The same person who took $68,000 and disappeared. The same person who called me defective. I gasped. "How do you know about that?" "I never told you." I was standing in the hallway. When she called, I heard everything. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands were clenched. She said I was defective, that I was broken, that she deserved a normal life. I remember every word. "Oh, Lucas, you were 6 years old." "I'm autistic, not brain damaged. I remember everything. Every word, every day, every betrayal." He turned back to his screens. And I've been documenting everything since then. Every meal you made, every route we took, every therapy session you paid for, every night you stayed up because I couldn't sleep. 8 years of evidence that she was gone and you were here. But why? Because she's going to come back, Grandma, and when she does, we need to be ready. The certainty in his voice terrified me. Lucas, how can you possibly know? Because she's predictable. She left when I was a burden. She'll come back when I'm an asset. It's simple pattern recognition. I sat on his bed, my legs unable to hold me. What do you mean, an asset? I'm building something valuable. A digital authentication system for art and documents. It's going to be worth money, potentially. A lot of money. When that happens, she'll find out. And she'll come back claiming she never really left, that she's been involved all along, that she deserves a share. Every word was delivered with his characteristic directness, and every word made perfect, horrible sense. You've been planning for this since you were 6 years old? No, since I was 9. That's when I understood what money meant, what value meant. That's when I realized the only way to protect you was to build something so valuable that people would come for it, and then build something that could prove they had no right to it. Lucas, you gave her $68,000. You gave me everything else: time, love, your health, your savings, your life. When she comes back, I need to be able to prove which one of you actually raised me, which one of you actually cared. I started crying deep, wrenching sobs that shook my whole body. Lucas got up, brought me his blue cup filled with water, set it in my hands. Don't cry, Grandma. I'm not going to let anyone take anything from us. Not again. You're 13. You shouldn't have to protect me. You're 80. You shouldn't have to fight alone. He sat beside me, not touching, but present. We're a team. We've always been a team. I just understand the game better than you do. Over the next weeks, Lucas's project intensified. He asked for boxes from the garage, old boxes I'd kept, because I'd been raised never to throw anything away. Tax records, utility bills, bank statements, going back over a decade. Lucas, why do you need receipts from 2011? Timeline verification. If Mom claims she was visiting in December 2011, but your bank statements show you spent $200 at Target that month buying my clothes, and your calendar shows you took me to 6 therapy appointments alone, and your phone records show you never received a call from her, that's proof. He was right. Horrifyingly, methodically right. We spent a month scanning grocery receipts, bank statements showing I'd never received money from Sarah, phone bills proving she'd never called, calendar entries documenting our routine, our life, every ordinary day that proved she'd been gone. Mr. Patterson stopped by one evening and found us surrounded by boxes and papers. Margaret, what on earth? Lucas is building a case, I said wearily. Against a future I don't think is coming. But you're helping him anyway. What else can I do? He's convinced she's coming back. And honestly, I looked at the evidence spread across my kitchen table, 8 years of proof that I'd been the only parent Lucas had. After what she did, maybe he's right to prepare. Mr. Patterson picked up one of the bank statements. This is remarkably thorough. Lucas doesn't do anything halfway. I managed a tired smile. When he was 6, he organized toy cars by color gradient. Now he's organizing our entire lives into a defensible legal record. Smart kid. Terrifying kid, I corrected. He's 13 and he thinks like a lawyer preparing for trial. That night, after Mr. Patterson left and Lucas went to bed, I sat alone in my kitchen looking at 8 years of documentation. Every receipt, every record, every proof of presence and absence. Lucas had been preparing for this moment since he was 9 years old, building not just skills, but evidence. Creating not just a system, but a weapon. And the most terrifying part was that he was probably right. Sarah would come back. Greedy people always did when there was something worth taking. And when she came, if she came with her lies and her lawyers and her claims that she'd been there all along, we'd be ready. Because Lucas saw patterns where others saw chaos. Because Lucas remembered everything. Because Lucas understood that truth was only as strong as your ability to prove it. My 13-year-old grandson was building a fortress out of documentation and code, protecting us from a threat I still couldn't quite believe was real. But Lucas believed it, and 8 years of abandonment had taught him that believing in people was dangerous. Believing in evidence was safer. So he built evidence, and I helped him. because what else could I do? He was my grandson, my responsibility, my child in everything but name. And if his strange, brilliant, autistic mind told him we needed to be ready for war, then we'd be ready. Even if I prayed, the war would never come. Lucas turned 14 in November 2019, and his obsession shifted from collecting evidence to building something with it. He started staying up later midnight, 1 a.m., sometimes later. I'd wake at 2 in the morning and see light under his door, hear the clicking of his keyboard. The sound became the soundtrack of my insomnia, strangely comforting. At least I knew where he was, what he was doing, even if I didn't understand what he was doing. One night in February 2020, I brought him tea at 1 in the morning. His room was freezing. He'd opened the window because the computer heat bothered him. 3 monitors glowed in the darkness, casting blue light across his focused face. "Lucas, you need to sleep." "Almost done." He didn't look away from the screens. "You said that 3 hours ago." "This time I mean it." I set the tea beside his blue cup, both of them on the desk, bookending his workspace like guardians. "What are you making?" He paused, actually stopped typing, and turned to look at me. "Something that will help people know what's real and what's fake, what actually happened versus what someone claims happened." "That's really important to you, isn't it?" "Yes. Because of your mother." He thought about that. "Because people lie. Documents don't, if you know how to read them correctly. Art doesn't lie if you can see all the layers. Truth is, there you just need the right tools to find it." I pulled his desk chair closer and sat down, my old bones protesting. "Lucas, I need you to be honest with me. You're not just preparing for some theoretical future, are you? You know something. You've calculated something." "I've calculated probabilities." His voice was clinical, detached. "Based on Sarah's behavioral patterns, financial situation, and psychological profile, there's an 87% chance she'll return within 2 years of any significant financial event in my life." "You've calculated the probability of your mother coming back?" "Yes. She's predictable. She left when resources were scarce, and I was a burden. She'll return when resources are abundant, and I'm valuable. The trigger will be money or publicity, or both." My heart hammered in my chest. "Lucas, that's very specific." "It's pattern recognition. She values money over relationships. She values comfort over responsibility. When I was a cost, she left. When I become a profit, she'll return." He turned back to his screens. "I've been monitoring her social media. She moved back to Boston 6 months ago." The room tilted. "What?" "She's in Cambridge, working as a receptionist at a law firm. She's been dating a lawyer there, Stephen Walsh. He specializes in family law and estate disputes." "How long have you known this?" "Since she moved back. I set up alerts years ago. Anytime her name appears in public records, I get notified." I couldn't breathe. "She's been here for 6 months? 20 minutes away?" "Yes." "And you didn't tell me?" He finally looked at me again. "What would you have done? Called her? Tried to reconnect? Let her back into our lives before I was ready?" "Lucas, she's your mother." "No." His voice was sharp, harder than I'd ever heard it. "You're the only mother I've ever had. She's the woman who gave birth to me and then abandoned me. Those are very different things." Tears streamed down my face. "Baby, you can't track people and calculate when they're going to betray you." "Why not? That's what preparation is. Anticipating threats and building defenses." He gestured at his screens. "I'm almost done. Another 6 months, maybe 8. And the system will be complete. Then I can start selling it. And when that happens, when the money comes and the attention comes, she'll appear, and we'll be ready." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that people were more than patterns and probabilities, that Sarah might have changed, might have grown, might actually regret what she'd done. But I'd seen the bank statements showing $68,000 gone. I'd heard her voice on that phone call 8 years ago, calling Lucas defective. I'd spent 8 years watching my grandson rock himself to sleep because his mother had thrown him away. "What if you're right?" I whispered. "What if she comes back?" Then we show her the evidence. Every calendar entry, every bank statement, every therapy bill you paid alone, every night you stayed awake because I couldn't sleep. 8 years of documented proof that you raised me and she didn't. 8 years of verified truth that no lawyer can argue with. He pulled up a screen showing a complex diagram documents connected by lines, each one time-stamped and verified, creating an unbreakable chain of evidence. This is blockchain-style verification, he explained. Each document is linked to the ones before and after it. If anyone tries to alter one piece, the entire chain breaks. It's mathematically impossible to fake. Lucas, I struggled for words. This is extraordinary. But you're 14 years old. You should be worrying about school and friends, not building legal defenses against your own mother. I don't have friends, and school is easy. He said it without self-pity, just stating facts. This is what I'm good at, building systems, finding patterns, protecting the people I love from people who want to hurt them. The weight of that protecting the people I love broke something in me. I put my head in my hands and sobbed. Lucas stood up, walked to his closet, and came back with a blanket. He draped it over my shoulders, not a hug, but the closest thing to comfort he could offer. Don't cry, Grandma, I'm going to make sure nobody ever takes anything from us again. You shouldn't have to. But I can. So I will. The next morning, Mrs. Chen found me in my garden again. I'd taken to spending time there, when the walls of the house felt too close. She sat beside me on the cold ground, both of us wrapped in coats against the March wind. Lucas told you, didn't she? I looked at her in surprise. You knew Sarah was back? I saw her. 3 weeks ago, driving past the house. Slowed down, looked at the house, drove on. I didn't tell you because... She paused. Because what good would it have done? Make you panic? Make you afraid? I am afraid. I know. But Margaret, that boy of yours? He's 10 steps ahead of everyone. Including his mother. That's what scares me. He's weaponizing his autism, turning his pattern recognition and memory and detail obsession into tools for a battle I don't even want to fight. Mrs. Chen shook her head. He's not weaponizing his autism. He's using his gifts to protect his family. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Because love is the motivation. Not revenge, not anger, love. He loves you. And he's terrified of losing you the way he lost her. That night, I found Lucas scanning more documents, old photographs now, from before Sarah left. Pictures of Lucas as a baby, as a toddler, with Sarah smiling for the camera. Why are you scanning those? Evidence of what she had, what she threw away. He studied one photo, Sarah holding infant Lucas, her smile bright but her eyes empty. See? Even then, you can see it. The smile doesn't reach her eyes. The way she's holding me is wrong, too stiff, too uncomfortable. She never wanted me. Lucas, you can't analyze baby photos for... I can analyze everything. That's my gift. He looked at me. You taught me that. When you took me to the museum and let me see paintings my way. When you didn't try to make me normal, just help me be better at being me. You taught me that my way of seeing the world wasn't wrong, it was just different. I never meant for you to turn it into this. Into what? Preparation? Defense? Grandma, you've been defending me for 8 years. Fighting schools, fighting insurance companies, fighting everyone who said I couldn't or shouldn't or wouldn't. This is just me learning to fight back. The pandemic hit in March, and the world shut down. Schools closed. Therapy moved online. Everyone suddenly had to learn to live digitally. Lucas barely noticed the difference. He'd been living in the digital world for years. But I noticed. Suddenly trapped at home with a 14-year-old who never stopped working, who rarely slept, who was building something I couldn't fully understand. Lucas, you need to take breaks. Why? The work isn't done. Because you're human. Because your body needs rest. My body is fine. My brain works better at night anyway. I started setting alarms to remind myself to check on him. 2 a.m. Still working. 3 a.m. Still working. 4 a.m. Sometimes asleep at his desk, head on his arms, screen still glowing. I'd put a blanket over him, turn off 2 of the monitors, leave the 3rd running because shutting it down completely would wake him. Then I'd go back to bed and lie awake worrying about what we were becoming. A fortress. That's what we were becoming. Lucas was building digital walls around us, documentation so thorough that no one could penetrate it. And I was helping him, enabling him, because what choice did I have? He was my grandson. And he was probably right. Mr. Patterson stopped by in April, socially distanced, talking to me through the screen door. How's Lucas handling the isolation? He doesn't notice. He's been isolated his whole life, by choice and by necessity. This is just everyone else catching up to his reality. And you? I laughed bitterly. I'm 80 years old, trapped in a house with a teenager who's preparing for a war that might not even happen. How do you think I'm handling it? I think you're handling it the same way you've handled everything, by doing whatever Lucas needs. Is that healthy? For either of us? Mr. Patterson was quiet for a moment. Healthy? No. Necessary? Maybe. That boy sees something you don't. And maybe he's wrong. But maybe he's right. And if he's right and you're not prepared, he trailed off. Then Sarah takes everything. In May, Lucas finished something. I knew because he called me to his room with unusual urgency. Grandma, come look. I found him standing in front of his monitors, all three showing the same program, clean interface, simple design, nothing fancy. This is it, he said. The Digital Art Authentication and Verification System, DAVS. DAVS? I needed an acronym. It analyzes digital images of artwork and documents, checks for alterations, verifies authenticity, creates tamper-proof records. Museums can use it. Auction houses, fraud prevention companies. Anyone who needs to verify truth. He demonstrated uploading an image, watching the program analyze it, produce detailed reports about composition, age, alterations, authenticity. Lucas, this is remarkable. It's incomplete, but it's functional. He looked at me. I'm going to start selling it. You're 15. So? So you can't just... I stopped, because why couldn't he? He'd built something extraordinary, something valuable. How do you plan to sell it? Professional outreach, email campaigns, demonstrations. I've already identified 200 potential clients, galleries, museums, security firms, law offices. Law offices? For document verification, checking if contracts have been altered, if signatures are authentic, if evidence has been tampered with. He paused. The same things we'll need when Sarah comes back. Everything circled back to that. The war Lucas was preparing for. The betrayal he was certain was coming. What if she doesn't come back? I asked. What if all this preparation is for nothing? He looked at me with those intense brown eyes, David's eyes, filled with a certainty David never had. Then we'll have built something anyway. And we'll be safe anyway. And you'll never have to worry about money again anyway. He turned back to his screens. Either way, we win. But I wasn't sure anyone won when a 15-year-old had to build fortresses instead of friendships. When documentation replaced trust. When love looked like preparation for betrayal. We were winning, maybe. But God, the cost of it was breaking my heart. Lucas made his first sale in June 2020, right after he turned 15. I was in the kitchen making his breakfast, the same breakfast I'd made every morning for 10 years, when he appeared in the doorway holding his laptop. Grandma, I need you to look at something. The tone of his voice made me set down the spatula. Not excited, exactly. Lucas didn't do excitement. But there was something in intensity. He set the laptop on the table, turned it toward me. On the screen was an email from a company called SecureDoc Solutions. We're pleased to accept your proposal, I read aloud. License agreement for DAVS technology, $20,000 initial payment, with quarterly licensing fees of $5,000. Contract attached. My hands started shaking. Lucas, is this real? Yes. They're a document security firm in New York. They handle fraud prevention for law firms and insurance companies. I sent them a demo 2 weeks ago. They want to buy a license. $20,000? It's less than it should be, he said clinically. But it's proof of concept. Now I have a client. That makes me legitimate. Other companies will take me seriously. I sat down heavily. $20,000. More money than I'd seen in one place since I'd given Sarah $68,000 9 years ago. Lucas, this is incredible. It's a beginning. He closed the laptop. The eggs are burning. I jerked back to the stove. He was right. Smoke was rising from the pan. I turned off the heat, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the spatula. I'm sorry. I'll make more. It's okay. I'm not very hungry anyway. He took his blue cup, filled it with water, sat at the table. Grandma, I need to tell you something. The seriousness in his voice made my stomach drop. What? I monitored Sarah's social media again last night. She got engaged. The room spun. What? To Stephen Walsh, the family law attorney. He proposed 3 days ago. She posted about it on Facebook. He pulled up his phone, showed me a picture that made my heart stop. Sarah. Older, her face harder somehow, but still recognizable, wearing a large diamond ring, smiling at the camera with that same empty smile from the baby photos. And beside her, a man in an expensive suit, his arm around her possessively. That's Walsh? I whispered. Yes, he's 43. Partner at Patterson and Walsh in Cambridge, specializes in estate disputes, custody cases, and family law. Net worth approximately $2 million. He has a history of aggressive litigation tactics. How do you know all this? Public records, LinkedIn, court filings. It's all available if you know where to look. Lucas zoomed in on Walsh's face. See his expression? That's not love. That's calculation. He's assessing value. Lucas, you can't judge people from photographs. Yes, I can. I've been studying micro-expressions for 3 years. His smile is performative. His eyes are focused on the camera, not on her. He's performing wealth and success, not expressing emotion. I stared at the photo, at Sarah's fake smile and Walsh's calculating eyes. What does this mean? It means the timeline is accelerating. She's secured financial backing through Walsh. When she hears about my sale, she'll have the resources and the legal expertise to come after us. But it's only $20,000. That's not... It won't stay $20,000. Watch. He was right. Over the next 4 months, Lucas had 6 more sales. A gallery in Los Angeles, $15,000. A museum in Chicago, $25,000. An auction house in London, $35,000. A fraud prevention firm in San Francisco, $45,000. By October, Lucas had made $235,000. $235,000. From a 15-year-old's bedroom, during a pandemic, while the rest of the world fell apart. Linda came by. We still did socially distanced porch visits, and when I told her, she actually gasped. Margaret, that's extraordinary. It's terrifying, I corrected. Every sale makes us more visible. Every dollar makes Sarah more likely to come back. You don't know she even knows about this. She'll know. I looked through the screen door at Lucas, visible through the living room window, working at his computer as always. Lucas is already planning for it. He's preparing like she's going to show up tomorrow. Maybe that's smart. Maybe that's tragic. He's 15, Linda. He should be going to homecoming dances and learning to drive and thinking about college. Instead, he's building legal defenses against his own mother. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Has he ever said what he wants? Not what he's preparing for, what he actually wants? I thought about that. No. He talks about what's going to happen, what we need to be ready for. But want? I don't think Lucas lets himself want anything. That night, I asked him. We were at dinner. I still made him come to the table every evening, even though he'd eat while looking at his phone, checking emails from potential clients. Lucas, what do you want? He looked up, confused. Want? Yes. Not what you're building, not what you're preparing for. What do you actually want for yourself? He thought about it for a long time. I want you to be safe, financially secure, not stressed about money. That's for me. What about for you? More silence. Then, I want to not have to prepare for the worst. I want to trust that people won't lie. I want evidence to be unnecessary because truth is just accepted. He set down his phone. But that's not realistic. So I'll settle for being prepared. My heart shattered. Lucas. It's okay, Grandma. I don't mind. Preparation is what I'm good at. And when Sarah comes, when she tries to take things that aren't hers, we'll be ready. That's enough. But it wasn't enough. Not for me. Not for any 15-year-old. Mrs. Chen found me crying in my garden the next afternoon. November was cold, the ground hard, but I needed to be outside, away from the house that felt more like a bunker every day. She's coming, isn't she? Mrs. Chen said, sitting beside me. Lucas thinks so. He's been tracking her engagement, her finances, her movements. He says the probability is 92% now. So what do you do? What can I do? He's built this incredible thing, this system that's worth real money, and the more successful he becomes, the more danger we're in. I laughed bitterly. 10 years ago, I was worried about having enough money to feed him. Now I'm worried about having too much money and attracting his mother back. You could move. Leave Massachusetts. Lucas can't handle change. A new house, new routes, new routines, it would destroy him. We're trapped here by his autism and Sarah's greed. Mrs. Chen took my hand. Then you stand your ground. Lucas is right, you prepare, you document, you make it impossible for her to lie. And when she comes, you fight. I'm 80 years old. I don't have any fight left. You have a grandson who's been fighting for both of you since he was 9. Let him. In December, the big offers started coming. Tech companies wanted exclusive rights. Corporate fraud prevention firms wanted to license it for their entire operations. The numbers jumped from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions. Lucas sat me down one evening, pulled up a spreadsheet showing various offers. These are the 3 best options, he said. Licensing deals that would pay over time, or an acquisition offer that would buy the system outright. $3.2 million. I couldn't process that number. $3.2 million? For complete ownership, with a 5-year non-compete clause. I couldn't build competing verification software for 5 years. Lucas, that's more money than I've made in my entire life. I know. He looked at me seriously. What should I do? The question surprised me. You're asking me? You're the adult. This is a life-changing decision. I looked at this 15-year-old boy who'd been making life-changing decisions since he was 9, who'd taught himself coding and art authentication and legal strategy, who'd prepared for betrayal with the methodical precision he applied to everything. What do you want to do? Sell it completely. Take the money. Be done with this kind of software. He paused. I'm already designing something else. A hiring platform for neurodivergent people. Companies need pattern recognition and detail-oriented work. Autistic people excel at both. It's a better application of my time. You've already moved on? I built DAVs for a specific purpose to make money and protect us. Once it serves that purpose, I don't need it anymore. He pulled up another screen. This is what I actually care about. Helping people like me find work. Proving we're valuable. I looked at his new designs, his new system, his new purpose. You're remarkable, Lucas. I'm prepared. He closed the laptop. Should I take the offer? Yes. He sold it in March 2021 for $3.2 million. $3.2 million. Lucas was 16 years old. And then the news got hold of the story. A local reporter named Kate Anderson called, asking for an interview. Local teen with autism creates revolutionary art authentication software. That was the angle. Human interest. Feel-good news in the middle of the pandemic. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. Lucas overheard. Actually, I'll do it. What? Lucas, no. You hate attention. You don't like cameras or strangers. This is the trigger, he said calmly. The publicity Sarah needs to justify coming back. If we do the interview, we control the narrative. We control the timeline. We know when she's coming. You want her to see this? I want her to make her move. We're ready. The longer we wait, the more anxious I get. Let's just... He paused, searching for words. Let's get it over with. If this part really struck a chord with you, tap that like button to let me know you're with me. Do you see yourself in the character's journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to hear your take. So we did the interview. Kate came to our house in March, set up in our living room, filmed Lucas at his computer. Can you explain what your software does? She asked. It verifies document and artwork authenticity through pattern recognition and metadata analysis, Lucas said, looking at the camera the way he looked at everyone directly, without shame or discomfort. It catches forgeries that people miss. What made you want to create this? I tensed, but Lucas answered simply, I wanted to know what was real. People lie, documents don't, if you know how to read them correctly. The segment aired on Friday Evening News. 2 minutes of interview, dramatic music, shots of Lucas at his computer looking focused and brilliant. Local teen creates revolutionary verification software. I watched it with Lucas. How do you feel? I asked when it ended. Fine, but I noticed something in the days after. He wasn't working. Wasn't planning. Just waiting. Watching. Like a soldier in a foxhole, knowing the enemy was coming, counting down the seconds until battle. Lucas, are you okay? Yes. Just waiting. For what? He looked at me with those brown eyes that saw everything. For the doorbell to ring. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday afternoon in April, it did. I wasn't ready. Despite everything, all the preparation, all the documentation, all the planning, when that doorbell rang, I still wasn't ready. Lucas was in his room. I opened the door, and there they were. Sarah, and a man in an expensive suit carrying a leather briefcase. After 10 years of silence, my daughter-in-law had finally come home. She looked different. Older? Yes, 10 years would do that. But it was more than age. Her hair was professionally styled, highlighted blonde. Her clothes were expensive designer jeans, cashmere sweater, leather boots that probably cost more than my monthly pension, diamond earrings, that engagement ring catching the afternoon light. She'd done well for herself. While I'd aged a decade and 10 years, she'd apparently thrived. Hello, Margaret. Her voice was smooth, practiced, like we'd just seen each other last week instead of a decade ago, like she hadn't abandoned her son and stolen my life savings. I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. The man beside her stepped forward, extending his hand. Mrs. Sullivan. I'm Stephen Walsh. Mrs. Cooper's attorney and fiancé. We'd like to speak with you about Lucas. His situation, Sarah added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Never did. Lucas was right about that. My hand gripped the doorframe so hard my arthrals screamed. His situation? May we come in? Walsh's voice was professionally pleasant. Reasonable. The kind of voice that made you feel unreasonable for saying no. This is important. It's about Lucas's future and his recent financial success. I should have slammed the door. Should have told them to get off my property. Should have done anything except what I did. I stepped back and let them in. They walked into my home, Sarah and her lawyer, and I felt violated. This was our space, mine and Lucas's. The kitchen where we'd eaten breakfast together for 10 years. The living room where Lucas had learned to organize his toy cars. The hallway where I'd stood listening to him cry himself to sleep. Sarah's eyes swept over everything with barely concealed disdain. You haven't changed anything. Why would I? It's so dated. She touched the old couch, my grandmother's furniture that I'd kept because I couldn't afford new. David always hated this couch. The casual mention of my dead son, her dead husband, made me want to scream, "Don't you dare." Lucas appeared in the hallway. Sarah's face transformed, not with love or remorse or shame, with calculation. I watched it happen in real time, the softening of her features, the manufactured emotion. "Lucas! Oh my God, look at you! You're so tall!" She moved toward him, arms outstretched. Lucas didn't move, didn't react, just watched her with those analytical eyes. She stopped, laughed awkwardly. "Sorry, I forgot. You don't like hugs." Still talking to him like he was 6 instead of 16, like he was stupid instead of brilliant. "Hello, Sarah." His voice was flat, empty. "Lucas, honey, it's Mom." "No." The single word stopped her cold. "Margaret is Mom. You're Sarah, the woman who gave birth to me and then left." Her mouth opened, closed. She looked at Walsh, who stepped in smoothly. "Why don't we all sit down? This is difficult for everyone." We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Lucas and I had eaten 10 years of breakfasts, where we'd done homework and scanned documents and planned for this exact moment. Walsh opened his briefcase, pulled out papers, official-looking documents with seals and signatures. "Mrs. Sullivan, we're here to discuss custody and financial guardianship of Lucas." My stomach dropped. "Custody? He's 16. "Still a minor," Walsh interrupted smoothly. "And my client, Sarah Cooper, has never formally terminated her parental rights. She's maintained legal custody this entire time." "She abandoned him." My voice rose despite myself. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, actual tears, perfectly timed. "I didn't abandon him, Margaret. I needed space. I needed to heal. Raising an autistic child was destroying me," my therapist said. "Your therapist?" I was screaming now. "You had money for a therapist but not for your son? I gave you $68,000. "To help with his care," Sarah said softly. Sadly. Like I was the crazy one. And I appreciated that so much, Margaret. But I needed to take care of myself too. Put on your own oxygen mask first, right? That's what they say. I wanted to lunge across the table, wanted to claw the fake sympathy off her face. Walsh continued as if I hadn't spoken. My client has maintained consistent involvement in Lucas's life from a distance. That's a lie. I turned to Lucas, desperate. Tell them she never called, never visited, never sent a single birthday card. We have documentation, Walsh said, pulling out more papers. Phone records showing regular calls, money transfer receipts showing consistent financial support. Visit logs documenting monthly in-person contact, everything properly dated and notarized. He spread them across my kitchen table. They looked real, professional, official. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might have a heart attack right there. Those are fake. They have to be fake. They're properly notarized and filed with the state, Walsh said calmly, unless you have proof they're forged. Lucas, Sarah said, reaching across the table toward him. He pulled back before she could touch him. Sweetheart, I know Grandma has done a wonderful job, but you need your mother now, especially with all this money and attention. You need guidance. You need protection. Protection from what? Lucas asked. From people who might take advantage of you. From making bad financial decisions. She glanced at me, her expression shifting to something uglier. From people who might see you as a meal ticket instead of a grandson. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. How dare you? It's just the truth, Margaret. Sarah's voice turned hard, cold. The mask slipping. You're 80 years old. Living on a fixed income. You've got, maybe 5 years left? You need Lucas's money. I get it, but he's my son. And now that he's successful, I'm taking him back. Taking him back? I could barely form words. Like he's a library book? Like you didn't throw him away when he was inconvenient? Walsh held up a hand. Mrs. Sullivan, let's keep this civil. Civil? I stood up, my chair scraping loud. You want civil? She abandoned a 6-year-old autistic child. She took $68,000 and disappeared for 10 years. She called him defective, and now she wants to show up and take his money? Sarah stood too, all pretense gone. That's right. I want my son back. My successful, wealthy son who apparently isn't as defective as I thought. Funny how $3 million makes all the difference, isn't it? The cruelty of it, the raw, honest cruelty made the room spin. Lucas spoke into the silence. You're here for the money. I'm here for you, baby. Don't lie. His voice was clinical. You're here because I'm worth $3.2 million now. If I was still just an autistic kid with no value, you'd still be in California or wherever you've been pretending I don't exist. Sarah's face hardened. You don't understand adult relationships. I understand patterns. I understand behavioral analysis. I understand that you're a narcissistic opportunist who values money over people. He pulled out his phone. Would you like to see your social media posts from the last 10 years? Not one mention of me, not one. But plenty of posts about your new life, your new apartment, your new car. The car Grandma's money paid for. Lucas, that's enough, Sarah started. No, it's not. He stood up, towering over her now. He was 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered like David had been. You left. You stayed gone. You don't get to come back now. Walsh cleared his throat. Unfortunately, that's not Lucas's decision. Legally, Sarah has never relinquished her parental rights. She has documentation showing consistent involvement. Unless you can prove otherwise, the court will side with biological parent. We can prove otherwise, Lucas said. I looked at him, saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Not fear, not anger. Certainty. Lucas the First tarted. Let them present their evidence, he said calmly. Let them make their case. We'll respond in court. Walsh smiled, confident, predatory. I should warn you, fighting this will be expensive. Legal fees alone could run $50,000 to $75,000. At your age, Mrs. Sullivan, with your limited resources. We'll find a lawyer, I said, though I had no idea how I'd pay for one. Of course. Walsh gathered his papers. We'll see you in court. Discovery process should begin next week. They stood to leave. Sarah paused at the door, looked back at Lucas, with something I couldn't quite read. Regret? No. Calculation. I really do love you, Lucas. I know you don't believe me, but I do. I wasn't ready before. I am now." "You're not ready now either," Lucas said. "You're just greedy." After they left, I collapsed into my chair. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. I couldn't breathe properly. Lucas brought me water in his blue cup, that same cup from 10 years ago, cracked and faded but present through everything. "I'm going to be sick," I whispered. "No, you're not. You're going to drink this water, then we're going to call a lawyer, then we're going to win." "Lucas, their documents looked real." "They're not real. They're very good forgeries, but they're not real." He sat down across from me. "I've been preparing for this for 7 years. We have evidence they can't fake. We have documentation they can't refute. We have truth, Grandma, and truth always wins if you can prove it." "What if we can't prove it?" "We can." He pulled out his phone. "I've been recording for 7 years, documenting every day, building an unbreakable chain of evidence. When we go to court, I'm not just going to prove she's lying. I'm going to destroy her lies so completely that no one will ever believe another word she says." I looked at my 16-year-old grandson, this boy who'd been planning for war since he was 9 years old, and I started crying. "I'm so sorry," I sobbed. "I'm so sorry you had to grow up like this. Planning and preparing and building defenses instead of just being a kid." "Stop." He took my hand, actual physical contact, rare and precious. "You gave me 10 years of safety, of love, of someone who stayed. I'm giving you this. Fair trade." "It's not fair." "Yes, it is." He squeezed my hand once, then let go. "Now drink your water. We have work to do." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to Lucas on his computer, the familiar clicking of his keyboard. Building something. Planning something. Preparing for the battle I'd hoped would never come but he'd known was inevitable. Mrs. Chen came by the next morning. She'd seen Sarah's car. "She's back." "Yes." "What are you going to do?" "Fight." I looked at my neighbor, my friend, this woman who'd helped us survive. "We're going to fight, and Lucas says we're going to win." "Do you believe him?" I thought about Lucas at 9 years old, saying he'd take care of me someday. Lucas at 13, tracking Sarah's movements and calculating probabilities. Lucas at 15, building a system worth millions. Lucas at 16, calmly telling me we'd win. "Yes," I said, "I believe him." Because Lucas saw patterns where others saw chaos. And he'd been preparing for this moment his entire life. The war had finally come. But we were ready. Finding a lawyer turned out to be easier than paying for one. I called James Chen the next morning, the lawyer who'd helped me with estate planning years ago when David got sick. He was 70 now, semi-retired, but he listened to everything. "Margaret, I'm so sorry. But I have to be honest with you, this kind of case could cost $60,000 to $80,000, possibly more if Sarah fights hard. And she will fight hard. $3.2 million is serious motivation." My savings account had $4,000. Lucas's money was in a trust I'd set up specifically so I couldn't touch it, protection against my own desperate moments. "I'll find a way," I said, though I had no idea how. "Let me make some calls. I might know someone." He called back 3 hours later. Linda Reyes. Family law attorney, 23 years of experience. She specializes in custody cases involving special needs children. She's willing to meet with you tomorrow. How much does she charge? She wants to hear your story first, then we'll talk about fees. Linda Reyes met us at her office in downtown Boston the next afternoon, a small practice, not fancy, but professional. She was in her 50s, short dark hair going gray, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Lucas and I sat across from her desk while I explained everything. The abandonment, the phone call, the $68,000, 10 years of silence. Sarah's return with her lawyer and fake documents. Linda listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Mrs. Sullivan, this is one of the most clear-cut cases of abandonment I've seen in my career. But here's the problem. Sarah never legally terminated her parental rights. There's no court record of custody transfer. Schools and doctors accepted you informally, but legally, Sarah is still Lucas's parent." My chest tightened. "So she can just take him?" "She's not trying to take physical custody. Lucas is 16. Courts rarely force teenagers to move. What she wants is financial guardianship, control of his assets until he turns 18. $3.2 million, I whispered. Exactly. And her lawyer, Walsh, he's good, aggressive. I've dealt with him before. If he has documentation showing Sarah maintained involvement, this will be difficult. But it's all fake. I pulled out the papers Walsh had left: phone records, money transfer receipts, visit logs. These have to be fake. She never called, never visited, never sent a penny. Linda studied them carefully. They look legitimate, very professionally done. Do you have proof they're forged? I felt my world collapsing. I have 10 years of my own records, my phone bills showing she never called, my bank statements showing I never received money, my calendars showing she never visited. That's excellent. But Mrs. Sullivan, Linda's voice was gentle but firm. Without hard evidence that her documents are fake, a judge might rule in her favor. Walsh will argue that your records are incomplete, that you have motivation to lie to keep Lucas's money, without proof of forgery. I have proof. Lucas spoke for the first time. He'd been sitting quietly, watching Linda with those analytical eyes. I can prove every document they have is fake. Linda looked at him with interest. How? I built a digital authentication system. It analyzes documents for forgery checks, metadata, signatures, timestamps, everything. I sold it for $3.2 million. That's what this whole case is about. Understanding dawned in Linda's eyes. You can analyze their documents? I already did. Last night. Every single one is fraudulent. Created within the last 6 weeks, not over the last 10 years like they claim. The signatures are forged, pressure patterns don't match. The paper stock is wrong for the dates listed. The notary seals are inconsistent. He pulled out his tablet. I have a complete analysis prepared. Linda stared at him. You're 16. Yes. And you built a system that can detect document forgery? Yes, it's what I do. Pattern recognition, detail analysis, finding truth in data. She leaned back in her chair, studying Lucas with new respect. Can you testify to this in court? Yes. Can you explain your methodology in a way a judge will understand? Yes. I've done demonstrations for security companies, museums, law firms. I can make it clear. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at me. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm going to be honest. This case terrifies me. A mother returning after 10 years to claim a child's millions? That's ugly. That's going to be brutal in court. Sarah will play the victim, the struggling mother who did her best. Walsh will paint you as the controlling grandmother who kept them apart. My hand started shaking. So we can't win? I didn't say that, Linda smiled, thin and fierce. I said it terrifies me. Because what Sarah is doing, coming back after a decade of abandonment, armed with fake documents and a predatory lawyer, it's evil, and I don't use that word lightly. If Lucas can prove those documents are fake, if you have 10 years of evidence showing you raised him alone, we can win. But it's going to be a war. How much? I asked. For your services? Linda named a number that made my vision blur. $45,000 as a retainer. Possibly more if the case went long. I couldn't breathe. I don't have that kind of money. I know. I looked you up. Pension of $3,200 per month. Reverse mortgage eating your house equity. Savings depleted. She looked at Lucas. But your grandson has $3.2 million in trust. I can't touch his money. Actually, you can. For legal expenses protecting his interests, that's explicitly allowed under trust law. She pulled out a form. Lucas, as the beneficiary, you can authorize payment for legal representation. Are you willing to do that? Lucas didn't hesitate. Yes, whatever it costs. Lucas, no, I started. Grandma. He looked at me directly. You spent $68,000 trying to help me when I was little.